This is Land of Havilah, Isaiah 21. This chapter reads like a complete mystery until we find out in verse 9 that the subject of it is the fall of Babylon. The fulfillment of the fall of Babylon was 539 BC, which was about 200 years after this chapter predicted it. The prophecy is remarkable because when Isaiah delivered it, Babylon was nothing more than a small kingdom far away in lower Mesopotamia, 2 Kings 20, verses 14 to 21. It probably took a month or more to get from Judah to Babylon by horse or camel, and such a journey in ancient times through multiple principalities was fraught with danger, Ezra 8, 21 to 23, so that travel between Judah and Babylon was probably very rare. So anyone in Judah who read this prophecy probably thought, who cares about the fall of Babylon? What's Babylon to us? But Babylon turned out to be very important because about 100 years after Isaiah in 626 BC, the Babylonians started to expand their territory. They eventually overthrew the Assyrian Empire and became the dominant power in the Middle East. They overthrew Judah in 586 and took Judah captive. So then everyone knew exactly what Babylon was to Judah. Babylon was very important to Judah. So here it is, the prophecy of the fall of Babylon delivered before the rise of it, when no one cared. Verse 1. The burden of the wilderness of the sea, as whirlwinds in the south sweep through it, it comes from the wilderness, from an awesome land. A grievous vision is declared to me. The treacherous man deals treacherously, and the destroyer destroys. Go up, Elam, attack. I've stopped all of Media's sighing. Therefore my thighs are filled with anguish. Pains have taken hold on me like the pains of a woman in labor. I'm in so much pain that I can't hear. I'm so dismayed that I can't see. My heart flutters. Horror has frightened me. The twilight that I desired has been turned into trembling for me. They prepare the table. They set the watch. They eat. They drink. Rise up, you princes. Oil the shield. For the Lord said to me, Go, set a watchman. Let him declare what he sees. For he sees a troop, horsemen in pairs, a troop of donkeys, a troop of camels. He shall listen diligently with great attentiveness. He cried like a lion, Lord, I stand continually on the watchtower in the daytime, and every night I stay at my post. Behold, here comes a troop of men, horsemen in pairs. He answered, Fallen, fallen is Babylon, and all the engraved images of her gods are broken to the ground. You are my threshing and the grain of my floor. That which I have heard from Yahweh of armies, the God of Israel, I have declared to you. Comment. 2 of the verses we just read point us to the fall of Mystery Babylon in Revelation 18. In verse 1, this is, quote, a burden of the wilderness of the sea, end quote. Seagoing commerce involving Mystery Babylon is a big component of Revelation 18. Then in verse 9, fallen, fallen is Babylon. That's exactly repeated in Revelation 18:2. Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. So how is literal Babylon of this chapter connected to Mystery Babylon of Revelation 18? Revelation 18 describes Mystery Babylon as being a corrupt worldwide system of commerce, a system where money is the root of all evil. There's a chasing of money wherever the chase might lead, no matter whether it leads men into immorality, demonic behavior, or the buying and selling of human souls. Mystery Babylon is a habitation of men and demons. There's an angelic call in that chapter in Revelation for God's people to exit that system before God brings it all down in flames in one apocalyptic day, Revelation 18:8. So in your narrator's assessment, the fall of Mystery Babylon in Revelation 18 is God making a final end of the corrupted world system which has commerce and money as its God. Money is the end goal, and how it's earned doesn't matter. In the literal Babylonian kingdom of the 6th century BC, the Babylonian king threw a party for himself and 1,000 of his administration, Daniel chapter 5. It was the last night of the kingdom, but they didn't know. The king took the silver and gold vessels that had been robbed out of Yahweh's temple in Jerusalem, drank wine from them, and praised the gods of silver, gold, brass, iron, wood, and stone. Then he saw the writing on the wall, which said God had measured him, found him wanting, and brought his kingdom to an end. In that night the king was killed, his empire was stripped and given to the Medes and Persians. So in both Babylons, the ancient one and the mystery one of Revelation, there's corruption, devotion to silver, gold, and material things, the trading of the holy for the unholy, the mocking of God, and commerce affecting the human soul. And we see how God used a literal kingdom as a model of corruption worldwide, and we see how he brought that literal kingdom to a sudden end, which is the same sudden end he plans for the corrupt system of the world. But back to Isaiah 21. In verse 1, Babylon's destruction will be as whirlwinds of the south, also translated whirlwinds of the Negev being the desert wilderness south of Judah. Destruction will blow through Babylon like a dust devil blowing through. In verse 2, God commands Elam to attack. Elam and Media, in the same verse, were components of the Persian Empire that overthrew Babylon. In verses 3 and 4, my thighs are filled with anguish, pains have taken hold on me, and so forth. These are descriptions of the terror that'll be in Babylon when the sudden end is on them, just like the terror and distress in Revelation 18 when Mystery Babylon falls. In verse 5, they prepare the table, they set the watch, they eat, they drink. Rise up, you princes, oil the shield. It's a description of Babylonian king Belshazzar's feast recorded in Daniel 5, that they were eating and drinking when they should have been rising up to defend themselves because the enemy was at the gate. In verses 6 and 7, quote, the Lord said to me, the me is Isaiah, go set a watchman, let him declare what he sees. When he sees a troop, horsemen in pairs, a troop of donkeys, a troop of camels, he shall listen diligently with great attentiveness, end quote. Seems to be a message to the Jews of coming times, the Jews of the Babylonian captivity, that they should be looking expectantly at small signs. They should be looking for Babylon to fall. And it's a message to us that we should be looking for the fall of Mystery Babylon. In verse 8, quote, he cried like a lion, Lord, I stand continually on the watchtower in the daytime, and every night I stand at my post, end quote. This reminds us of Jesus' final advice concerning the end times. He said, watch, Matthew 24:42. His coming will be sudden, and it'll be great and terrible, Joel 2:31, great for those who are with him, and terrible for those who are in the world system. So we're watchmen on the watchtower. The cardinal sin of the watchman is to fall asleep. The watchman should declare boldly like a lion that he'll stay attentive at his post day and night. In verse 9, the watchman again is reading the small signs he sees out there, a troop of men here, a pair of horsemen there. It's all about paying attention to the details. Then finally, in verse 9, Babylon falls, and it's too late for anyone who didn't watch. In verse 9, God says to the watchman, you're my threshing and the grain of my floor. God will harvest the watchman from the world. The watchmen are his grains of wheat that he'll separate from the world. These are the ones who've been looking for his coming, at which time he'll destroy the world system, Matthew 3:12. By the way, Mystery Babylon is a term from Revelation 17:5. It's a mystery because we have a hint of what's coming, but we don't know fully until it happens. Now, a 2-verse prophecy about Duma and Seir. Duma is also known as Edom and Idumea. When place names get translated from language to language over time, they get twisted into forms that sound more natural to the target audience. So Edom becomes Duma in this case, but the mountainous area called Seir in verse 11, which is in Edom, is the same as it's been since we first saw it in the book of Genesis. Continuing on the watchman theme of the last 6 verses, verse 11, the burden of Duma, one calls out to me of Seir, watchman, what of the night? Watchman, what of the night? The watchman said, the morning comes and also the night. If you will inquire, come back again. Comment in verses 10 and 11, someone called out from Edom saying basically, hey, watchman, do you see anything? And the watchman answered, nothing unusual, just the cycling of days and nights. But I don't mind you checking, check back any time. In other words, I'll be here watching even though it looks like nothing's happening, and I'm glad you're interested. Now, moving on to round out the last 5 verses of the chapter, a very interesting prophecy concerning Dedan, Kedar, and Tema, which are tribes of the Arabian desert. Verse 13. The burden on Arabia. In the forest in Arabia you will lodge, you caravans of Dedanites. They brought water to him who was thirsty. The inhabitants of the land of Tema met the fugitives with their bread. For they fled away from the swords, from the drawn sword, from the bent bow, and from the heat of battle. For the Lord said to me, within a year, as a worker bound by contract would count it, all the glory of Kedar will fail, and the residue of the number of the archers, the mighty men of the children of Kedar, will be few, for Yahweh, the God of Israel, has spoken it. Comment: the destruction of the Kedarites in verses 16 and 17 is for fulfillment within a year, not 200 years out like the one for Babylon. Fulfillment of short-term prophecies established Isaiah in his own time. As we said, the Assyrians were on the march through the surrounding nations at the time. In verse 13, the Dedanites traveled in caravans in the forest or thickets of Arabia. We get the picture they were nomadic desert dwellers. They had compassion in verse 14, bringing water to him who was thirsty. Speaking of stragglers they happened upon in the desert, this is probably in relation to people fleeing the Assyrian invasions of their homelands, such as the citizens of Moab exiting their borders in a panic, as just described 6 chapters ago. They headed out into the wilderness. In verse 14, the desert-dwelling Temanites were the same as the Dedanites. If they found fugitives in the desert, they were likely to give them bread. In verse 15, we were right in our assumptions because fugitives are indeed fleeing the sword, fleeing the bent bow and heat of battle, which in Isaiah's day would be the Assyrian advancement through the area. The implication is that the Dedanites and Temanites will be okay because they were merciful, but in verses 16 and 17, Isaiah says, within a year, the Kedarites of the desert will be just a residue of what they were, few in number, for Yahweh has spoken it. There's the implication concerning them that this decimation will happen in battle because it involves their archers and mighty men. They can expect catastrophic defeat, we get the idea, because they weren't so merciful. There's the pointed mercy of the other 2 tribes and the pointed absence of it regarding the Kedarites. They didn't help the fugitives, and God spoke for them to be decimated. God didn't necessarily expect them to forsake their gods or follow the law of Moses. None of that had been revealed to them, but still he required them to have the basic mercy of giving bread and water to the fugitives. Isaiah 22 is next.